Welcome. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. I know I got some international folks out there. My name is Damon Brown of DamonBrown.net. My main thing is helping you as a side hustler, a solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. You're watching the Bring Your Worst show. I come to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11:30-ish a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm based here in Las Vegas. It's good to connect with y'all all around the world. And I miss traveling. And so this is the closest I can get to traveling. And I'm used to doing keynotes and going to the TED conference and all that stuff. And that has not obviously been happening since we've been sheltering in place. I'm so happy to be able to connect with y'all. Man, it's been every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I do it live every Wednesday. Whew, I know I do this every single time, but I have not sat down and actually counted how many times I've connected with y'all. I think it's been every Wednesday since 2020. And so it's now almost the middle, believe it or not, 2021. We're getting vaccinated, which I'm very thankful for that. So I'm glad my family's a little bit safer. Hopefully y'all are safe too, and everybody in your life is doing well. But it's been quite a ride. I'm happy to be able to be there with you, hopefully give you some insight and some game. I'm also author of the new book, Built From Now, How to Know Your Power, See Your Abundance, and Nourish the World. Yeah, I appreciate the feedback. I appreciate the sales because it's my independent book as part of my imprint. So I do this straight from the basement. And so, you're supporting an independent publisher when you buy this book, How to Know Your Power, See Your Abundance, and Nourish the World. Thank you for all the love. If you want to learn more about it, you can go ahead and grab a signed copy directly from me at DamonBrown.net. And it's available on all the platforms. A favorite recently has been the audiobook, which I actually recorded myself, and it's my voice. So if you're liking this program that comes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I think you'll appreciate the audiobook. It's that, but much deeper than what we do in this half an hour or so program. If you're liking it, be sure to subscribe. It's over at youtube.com/BrownDamon. It's free. I was talking to someone because I'm fairly new to the YouTube thing. I started getting serious about this show probably, like I said, about 6, 7, 8 months ago. I think it was November, December, around Thanksgiving here in America. And I was talking to some YouTubers because it's important to have mentorship. That's number one. I don't care. I got like 3, 4 bestsellers under my belt. I've spoken at TED 4 times. I'm still learning. And so I have mentors who are schooling me on the YouTube thing. And they were like, be sure and tell people that it's free. Because there's so many people who believe that you subscribe to something on YouTube, and that means you have to pay money, probably because you pay money on other platforms. This is free to y'all. It's free on Amazon Live. Shout out to the Amazon Live people that are watching it through my Amazon link. It's free on LinkedIn, so shout out to people at LinkedIn. Feel free to jump in the comments. It's free on YouTube, obviously, which is where the hub is. And then I sometimes have the stream. It's called a live stream going over to Twitter. That's free too. If you subscribe, the only thing that means, well, it means 2 things. Number one, it's a signal that you're liking the programming. It's kind of like when you're an author and people pre-order the book. That's a signal that the book's going to do well. Same thing with subscribing. But number 2, it just gives you a notification via email, or if you have the app, the YouTube app, it'll give you a heads up and say, hey, Damon's program is going to go live again every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's all that subscribing does. And then eventually allows me to make money on the back end from that stuff, but not directly from you, but from advertisers. So it's so many things that come when you subscribe. So if you're digging the program and you appreciate me coming through every Monday and Wednesday and Friday for y'all, this is how you can show some love. But yeah, new book is called Built From Now, and I'm talking about bringing your worth on this program. Today, we're going to talk about how to be braver today. Sorry for the bad English. I was working on this last night, and I was like, I don't know how to do this title, so hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say. How to find more bravery. And I forget who said it, probably a few people, but that bravery isn't that you don't have fear. Bravery is knowing that something needs to be done, knowing that something fits your ethics, something that fits who you are. The impact, in my words, of how you want to give the impact and how you want to nourish the world. And there are odds against you. You're scared and you do it anyway. So that's what it comes down to. Something that aligns with who you are, how you want to show up, as Seth Godin would say. And it's tough and you're afraid and you do it anyway. That's bravery to me. Feel free to jump in the comments. Let me know if you have a better or another, even better or in another definition of bravery that fits that your definition of bravery. I'd love to hear that in the comments. So we're going to talk about 3 or 4 books. I believe I put 4 down for today that can help you kind of activate that. To paraphrase Chase Jarvis over at Creative Live, it's at creativelive.com. He always says that creativity is a muscle. So it's not that there's creative people, but that creativity is like a muscle. So if you run 2 miles a day, then your calves are going to be stronger. If you don't run, your calves aren't going to be stronger. It's really that simple. That can be applied to a lot of things. I think that's applied to bravery. The risks and calculated risks and the thoughtfulness that I put into my career, if you look at it with me doing my 2 startups, with me starting my own publishing imprint, with me getting on stage, particularly at TED, which is very intimidating, all those required risks. And that was something where once you do one risk, calculated risk, notice I keep saying that, a calculated risk, then you get used to that and it becomes a muscle. And then you're used to stretching yourself. I'm lucky in that I've been in my profession for going on a quarter of a century, so 20 plus years. And so myself and my other colleagues, people that are fellow independents, people that are independent creators, fellow entrepreneurs, we're used to flexing that muscle. So it's not that you're not brave. It's just you might not be used to taking calculated risk. And these books, I think, will help you on that journey. All right, so let's get into it. The first one I recommend is The Hero with 1,000 Faces. It's by my man. No, I didn't know him when he was alive, so I can't say that. Someone who I really appreciate, I'll put it like that. I don't want to disrespect his name, Joseph Campbell. It's part of what's called the hero's journey. And very briefly, the hero's journey is you getting a call to action that's pulling you out of your comfort zone. And you can ignore the call of action, but if you ignore the call to action, as I said in one of my TED Talks, which I'll throw a link into, if you go to youtube.com/BrownDamon, if you go to my TED Talk, I have a playlist that's full of my 4 TED Talks. My 3rd one that I did is called the power of doing good enough, or why you should strive for good enough. I can't remember the name of my TED Talk. Why you should strive for good enough, and I talk a little about the hero's journey. But you do end up doing this call to action. If you don't do the call to action, you'll be haunted about it for the rest of your life. So you got to do it. It's something in your gut that says, I have to move forward. You end up moving forward. You have all these obstacles, all these different challenges, but then you end up getting this gift. And most importantly, whatever gift you get once you're done with this journey, you bring it back to your community. So it could be a literal gift like money or gold or whatever, but it could be a gift like you get a college degree. It could be a gift like myself where you're an entrepreneur, you end up doing your startups, and I end up selling my 2nd startup called Cuddler while I was taking care of the kids you hear over there in the background. Those guys, while I was doing my startup, ended up selling my startup and I'm having a lot of success with it. So I'm coming back after my hero's journey several years ago when I sold my startup and bringing the gift to you and saying, hey, this is how you can do it. You can, as I talk about in Build From Now, you can utilize the resources that you have, maximize them, and make impact in the world while having a very full life. It's not like everything stopped when I did my startup. It was like my kids were, my eldest was 1 going on 2, and this guy was just being born, the one you hear in the background, right? They're like 5 and almost 8 now. And so me being able to be proof of concept of that is my gift. But that was a result of my hero's journey. If I didn't do my startups and I stayed at home and didn't answer that call to action, I'd have no gift to give you. There would be no best-selling books. There would be no coaching practice. There would be no YouTube channel because I'd have nothing to talk about. That's the hero's journey. The hero with 1,000 faces is the blueprint from that. He's the one that came up with this idea of the hero's journey. There's a lot of pop cultural references in it. It's worth checking out the book if you do not understand the hero's journey. Now that I think about it, there's other books about the hero's journey, but this is like The Godfather. Like literally, if this book didn't exist, we wouldn't have the term hero's journey. Check it out. There's also, now that I think about it, there's also interviews with PBS and Joseph Campbell, again, who passed away probably about 15, 20 years ago. He's having a conversation. I think he's interviewed by, don't get me lying, I can't remember who he's interviewed by, but it's a major journalist. And it's a series of conversations. It's through PBS. If you go to pbs.org, I'm guessing, or if you do a look on YouTube, you'll be able to find these interviews. And it's just him talking about the hero's journey. Great companion to this. If you're not sure as far as how to find bravery within the journey that you're currently on, if you're getting that call to action, you're like, I don't know if I can do this stuff, then a good video to check out would be one of my previous Bring Your Worst shows. Again, all this content is free. It's How Can I Increase Confidence? And it's advice Oprah gave to Brene Brown. Brene Brown, of course, the powerhouse in the emotional intelligence arena, and Oprah, you probably know who she is. It's a super short video. It's a tough one. Super short video. I want to say it's like 8 minutes long. It gets straight to the point. And it's me talking about what she shared to her and then breaking down why it's so important. This is a key thing. Please check out the video. I think that if you're not sure about it, about how to build your bravery, it's a good place to start. All right. Oh, you already have that one. So you already know about the book. The next book I recommend would be The Art of Risk by Kate Sukol. Kate and I actually go way back, and I understand the depth of research that she did with this book. This book probably came out, I want to say 2016. I have my copy somewhere up there, but I didn't get a chance to reach it before the program today. What she did, fellow journalist, because my background is journalism, fellow journalist, and she spent years talking to scientists, like neuroscientists, like she's deep with it, as well as psychologists and sociologists about what goes into risk. Why are some people willing to jump out of a plane with barely any parachute, but then they're afraid to tell someone they care about that they love them? Why is someone like myself have no interest in getting into any type of physical risk or danger aside from playing a little bit of sports, but then I'm willing to take a risk and do a startup while I have a 9-month-old at home? What's the psychology behind that? Why do we take certain risks and won't take certain risks? And what's the danger, brain-wise, what's the danger that we're calculating? And she's going back to caveman times. And our brains aren't that much different than that. So the perception of a panther coming up in front of us, that can have the same trigger, physical trigger, than, again, us being emotionally vulnerable. They feel the same way. They feel like a threat. She breaks it down into the science of that. And now that I have kids that are getting older, she also talks about how the brain develops and how teenagers literally do not have the brain cannot comprehend when they take a massive risk, which is why teens can be so reckless. I would say also that with toddlers, since my youngest is just getting out of toddlerhood. Anyway, if you want to build that bravery, then you have to understand why you're willing to take certain risks, and then other risks are a threat to you, right? Why are you willing to drink slightly expired milk, but then you won't try a new restaurant? Again, not trying to blame you. It's just, that's how we all work. We all have these idiosyncrasies. I can never say that word, but you understand what I'm trying to say. These quirks. And this gets into that. It's like, why do certain things work out that way? If you understand why you're willing or not willing to take a risk, then you can go ahead and assess things and adjust things based on that. Life requires risk, but we have to understand why we take certain risks. It also can help you from not being reckless, because there's certain risks that we underestimate, and then suddenly we're devastated and we don't know what happened. So really getting into basically your blind spots and understand why you're not brave in certain areas, but you're way too brave in other areas. She breaks that down. It's a really entertaining book. Considering it's talking about a lot of science, it's down to earth. I am not a scientist, but I was able to understand most, not all the stuff in the book, particularly when it came to brainwaves and stuff. Fascinating stuff. Again, this book came out 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm still talking about it. So highly recommend it. It's The Art of Risk. And one of the things that I found is, that you mitigating risk and being more willing to take a risk often comes from security. You know you're going to be okay. If you have a bunch of money in your bank account, then you might be more willing to quit your job, right? As opposed to if you didn't have much. If you come from a stable household, or it feels stable to you, then you might be more willing to take a risk in a new relationship, because you know if you get your heart broken, then you still got your guardians and you got your brothers and sisters. You understand what I'm saying? Where you might not be willing to do that because it'll be too much of a risk because you're on your own and you don't have anything to come back to. Those kind of details. Routines are part of that. I have my routine where if my kids let me, because again, it is chaotic being the primary caregiver, I do my 5-minute meditation in the morning. I might do a little exercise. When it's not too hot in Las Vegas, I will take a walk. I do regular baths. If you end up catching the Bring Your Worth launch party that I had with Costco, you can actually check it again on the YouTube channel. Then like I'm really about, we call it self-care, but it's more like self-maintenance, because if you don't do that, you're going to break down. I'm willing to take a bath at the end of the day after the boys are down, like all that kind of stuff. Those routines help keep things stable. As a primary caregiver, as my wife and my partner ends up doing all these kinds of other things, because she actually has a job that's outside of the house. So making sure that she's good, making sure that my kids are good, the virtual or remote learning. I'm doing keynotes. I did a TED Talk 6-7 months ago. I wrote this book last year in 2020. How do you do all these things in an area of stability? How do you find that bravery? Because as Brene Brown says, the more unstable things are and the less secure you are, with your foundation, the more you're going to grab for security. And you might be grabbing the wrong thing. That's why we sometimes don't show up as brave as we can be. Routines, again, are really important. I set up a playlist with about 6-7 videos. They're all like 5-10 minutes long over at the YouTube channel, all free. Go and click on there and you'll get all this insight, hopefully, that you can use as far as establishing these routines, particularly as creatives. A lot of us aren't going to a 9-to-5 job. A lot of us are trying to create things, as I say in my previous book, Bring Your Worth, create something out of nothing. And so if you're doing that, you need to create your own structure. It's triple important for us. And the only reason why I've been able to strive and thrive for the past quarter of a century with creating independently as a writer, as a public speaker, as an entrepreneur and so forth, is because I've created my own structure. Again, I told you my daily habits. Without those, frankly, I think you're lost at sea. Check out the videos, the playlist. Again, it's like 10 videos. They're all super short. Check it out and you'll get more insight into that. It's a really good companion, again, to Kate Zuckel's Art of Risk. All right, so another one is pretty interesting. It's called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Famous book, you probably heard about it. It's a novel about a young guy, might as well call him a kid, named Santiago, who's on his hero's journey. So it fits into this. It's really a great allegory as far as being on a journey and finding the bravery within. I gave a link right here to the audiobook version. I have like 5 versions of the book. I'm sure there's like 2 of them somewhere in the office. I've had them for a while. I have a copy on my digital device. I think it's on Kindle. And I got the audiobook about 2 years ago, around the time I was writing Bring Your Worth, which is my previous book that came out in February of 2019. So I was listening to The Alchemist, because I read it several times, listening to the audiobook. This one, it's spoken by Jeremy Irons, the actor with that rich English accent, and he just kills it. And he's doing that. Now, Jeremy Irons, if you're not up on him, he's had this illustrious acting career, but he's also crazy with the voices, like really good. It's not even my thing. He's the one that actually voiced Scar, the antagonist in The Lion King. So if you saw the original Lion King in like 94, 93, he's the voice of Scar. So that richness, that intention, that sense of danger and gravitas, he kills it in this. The Alchemist is a short book. Actually, I wish I had one of my copies here. It's about as short as Bring Your Worth. Ironically, I quote The Alchemist a few times in the previous book, Bring Your Worth, but it's really short. You can probably read it. If you're a fast reader, you can probably read it in the afternoon. The layers, though, and discussions, I don't even want to get into the 5, 6, 7 different ideas that pop up just when we talking about it, that I could talk about those individual ideas for like an hour. Especially if you give me a cup of coffee or a drink, we could be talking about what these things symbolize. It talks about being brave in the world and moving beyond your comfort zone. Great book. Really simple. There's a reason why it sold like 100 million copies. Like, it's ridiculous. It is probably one of the top 100 books over the past century that's considered part of the catalog of the world, part of the oeuvre, if you want to use the fancy French word. Like, it's part of the literary discussion. you need this book. The audiobook, though, is ridiculous. I think the length of the audiobook is like an hour and a half. Like, you got the time. Check it out. Like, and the audiobook is ridiculous. If you need to get a physical copy of it, it's an awesome book too. I love the book. The audiobook, though, that's why I gave the link in here, is next level. And it's really about bravery and faith in yourself. There's also a lot of discussions as far as leading on other people and how mistrust of other people really reflects mistrust of ourselves. Because as I say in Bring Your Worth, if you don't believe in your own worth, then how can you get mad at other people for not giving you what you deserve? If you're not reflecting your worth into the world, then how are you going to get ahead? And get ahead as far as getting closer to what your main goal is, right? I mean, if you don't believe in yourself, how can you get mad at somebody else for not believing in you? The Alchemist, just get it. I'm tired of talking about it. Like, I can talk about it all day. I'm going to cut it off right now, right? Killer. A good companion to it would be my Bring Your Worth video from a few weeks back, how to find more meaning into your life. Man, it's really short. I want to say less than 5 minutes. One of the shortest shows that I've done. But if you go to YouTube and check it out, you'll see the comments in there. But then there are comments on Twitter. People have emailed me about this video, and it started so many conversations with the level of honesty that I tried to have, the level of honesty that I talk about with the people that I'm citing, because I'm quoting someone else in it, and realizing that you're more than your current obstacle. And you might not be able to remove the obstacle. You might have to go through the obstacle. But the main thing is, what lessons are you taking away from it? I talk about this honestly in Build From Now, which is probably my most emotionally vulnerable book yet. You see, I'm stuttering. Like, there's a lot in here, but I talk about in that. I also talk about that in the precursor, whatever you want to call it, Bring Your Worth, Love It with Creative Power, Value, and Service to the World. Without me going through certain trials and tribulations and challenges, I'd literally have nothing to say to you. We wouldn't have anything to talk about. I couldn't have a show. I couldn't write books. I couldn't coach one-on-one. I couldn't do TED Talks. Right? If I hadn't been through anything, I couldn't talk about anything, correct? Right? It's classic journalism, right? How are you gonna talk about stuff if you haven't been through it? Especially coaching people. But then there's that second level of, you can go through all this stuff, but if you're going to go through it anyway, the main thing you're going to carry from it are the lessons. And it's like, what lessons do you want to take from it? That's what this video is about, as far as how to find more meaning in your life. Again, it's part of the Bring Your Worth show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I think in the master playlist, the main playlist of the show, I think I'm at 110 episodes. So it's ridiculous. I think it's like 36 hours of content. Knock yourself out. It's all free. Just have fun. Subscribe if you're digging it over at youtube.com/BrownDamon, or just click the link for this, and then you'll go straight to this video. Again, the video is like 5 minutes long. You'll see the comments below it, and there's all kinds of commentary happening over at my newsletter at joindamon.me, and even some commentary on Twitter, I believe on LinkedIn, where this is really starting conversations. If you're going to talk about bravery, part of it is figuring out that whatever you're going through right now, or whatever you're facing, there are lessons to be learned from that. And those lessons will stay well after the pain or challenges go away. Lastly, of course, we can't talk about bravery without daring greatly from Brene Brown. This was her breakout. Y'all know, if you've been watching the show, I'm a huge fan of Rising Strong, which was a follow-up to this. This is a genesis, though, just as much as A Hero of 1,000 Faces is a genesis of our common idea of the hero's journey. You hear about the hero's journey, this, that, and the third. You probably heard about it if you're in the business world, but Hero of 1,000 Faces really started it. When we talk about emotional intelligence, guilt, shame, and so forth, daring greatly is part of that blueprint. Again, it's the one that started it. I want to say, with respect to Daniel Goleman, with coining the term, which I talked about last week on the show. Again, you can catch on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/BrownDamon. With respect to Daniel Goleman, who we talked about a week ago, who coined the term emotional intelligence with his book called Emotional Intelligence. And I had a whole thing on EQ, exactly a week ago. With respect to that, I feel like Brene Brown who's closer to my generation in age, was kind of the next level of that. It's like, okay, we have our EQ, emotional intelligence, as far as how we react to situations, and the separation between reaction and response, right? Where you might react in a certain way when someone does something to you, but your response, as far as how you respond to that person, is a separate matter. And within that gap is where we hold our power. That discussion, that begins here with Daring Greatly. I cannot recommend her books more, but this is a good place to start. Rising Strong, to me, at least with my mentality, is her apex. I love, love, love that book. You want to start with this one, though. All right? So Daring Greatly, if you want to get brave, it's a good place to start. And I have a whole playlist, again, with Brene Brown and more emotional intelligence. So if you feel like you need to get more emotional intelligence, again, understanding the context of the situation that you're in so that you react and respond in a way that is respectful of everyone, including yourself. That's what emotional intelligence is. Be sure and check out the playlist. So much of the other playlists, most of the videos on there are like maybe 10 minutes long, 11 minutes long, not very long, not too different than the discussion that we're having now. And they will give you insight, hopefully, as far as raising your emotional intelligence. Frankly, I think the more emotionally intelligent and aware you are, the braver you can be in situations because you understand the context. If you don't understand your commotions, if you don't understand your emotions and can't control your emotions, and I don't mean repress them, I mean control them. If you can't do that, then you're going to cap out as far as how brave you can be. I don't care how loud you get. I don't care how ferocious you are. I don't care how physically strong you get. If you're not aware of your emotional intelligence, you're going to cap out. You're probably going to burn out. Start with this playlist. Again, highly recommend Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. That is it for the show. I try to keep it at a half an hour to keep it moving with y'all because I can talk all day with y'all, but I want to respect your time. If you want more insight, remember it's the Bring Your Work show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can subscribe for free at youtube.com/BrownDamon, or you can click the link directly below and just hop in there. Remember, it's free every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Come through. I think you'd enjoy it. I'm, again, the author of the new book, Build From Now, How to Know Your Power, See Your Abundance, and Nourish the World. There's a lot more insight that you can learn from subscribing to the show. But you can also check out the book. There's also a quiz related to it and all these other good things that you can grab at your favorite publishing platform. Listen, it's been a blast. I'm getting tongue-tied, so I think I need some water. Remember that you can always bring your worth and that you can always build from now. You take care and be well.